AmandaLand, AmandaLand, AmandaLand. Good morning, y'all. I ain't even gonna hold you. I'm not ready. Look at this pimple on my nose. Look at this pimple on my nose. I'm not even gonna tell you. I'm not even gonna hold y'all. I'm not ready. Oh my God. I don't got no lipstick on. It's hot. If you're over here on Instagram, come on over to YouTube, Amanda Seals TV. That's where we at. I ain't even gonna hold y'all. I'm not ready. I don't know about y'all, but jet lag takes me out in a new way. Jet lag really takes me out in a new way. Oh my God. I know I'm used to having like a very organized show. Maybe it is perimenopause, Melissa. Oh my God. Is that a little arm muscle you're seeing? Maybe. I mean, I can do 25 push-ups. Okay. I could do 25 push-ups. Ask Melissa, when we was in gymnastics, we was doing that casual. That was casual. It was 3 sets of 25 with pull-ups in between. That was casual. Oh my God, y'all. I've been trying to wake up. I've been trying to get up since 6 a.m. I got up. I fell back asleep. I'm like trying to, and it seemed like every time I would get up, something else would happen with it on. So I'm like, I don't even know what I'm going to tell these people today. It's so much going on. Oh, y'all like my shirt? But the real question is, do you like my shorts? That's the real question. Do you like my shorts? Frutas. Come on, man. Come on. We have a really smart person joining us today. And so what's going to happen is, and she be talking to y'all. So what's going to happen is I'm going to bring her up. And while she is up talking to y'all, I'll get the rest of the show together. Because I feel like I'm having a hot flash, but it's not. It's just the earth. The earth is having a hot flash. It's so hot. It is so hot. And here's the other thing. It's not that it's hot. It's the level of humid that I only want if I'm in a tropical climate. My air conditioner is like, God damn it. My air conditioner is really trying to work, trying to do something. It's really trying to do something. But I just feel like crap. I feel like if I don't get the sleep I'm supposed to get, my immune system just be like, You thought he was going to show up. I'll be fine tomorrow. But welcome to Views from AmandaLand, your news and truths by any joke necessary. Thank you for waking up on the right side of history. I was putting together the show today, and there was just so much so much disordinate stuff. But what I will say that I did put together is yesterday I was talking to y'all about when I did Surrounded, and some of y'all were asking me, would you ever do it again? And I think just in my typical Amanda wanting to be the best at whatever I'm doing, I was like, yeah, I would do it again because I want to get good at it. And then I slept on it, and then I slept on it again. And I was like, actually, I don't want to get good at that. I actually don't need to do that anymore. Like, my role is not to argue with people who have no sense anymore. That's not the best use. Not the gas and electric company just sending an alert like, hey, y'all, quit with the air conditioner. Quit it. It just came up on my phone. Hey, y'all, quit it. Cut it out. Go under the sprinkler. It's funny when I'm waiting. So when people are waiting to come on the show, they be not sure when I'm gonna bring them up. So they be like poised, like Christina right now is like, when's it gonna happen? Let me be ready for when it happens. What kind of laugh is that? Side note, I watched Mary Poppins, like the old Mary Poppins on the airplane. It's about capitalism. Yes, it's about capitalism. I'm telling you, it's about challenging capitalism. It's fascinating when you start watching things with a consciousness and you like, they was really trying to take this little boy Tuppence. He had 2 little Tuppence that he was trying to feed the birds with, and they really tried to yank them Tuppence from him. And the lady with the birds was like, feed the birds, Tuppence away. And then the little boy screamed out, don't take my Tuppence. And then everybody said, give us our money from the bank. I need y'all to go watch Mary Poppins again. Go watch it again. Another film I watched on the plane, Field of Dreams. I done seen Field of Dreams 11 times. 11 times. Field of Dreams is also anti-capitalism. It's about listening to your gut and saying, I'm going to actually listen to my gut to guide me rather than just living in fear and for money. I swear to you. If you build it, they will come. Go watch it. And now they don't make them type of joints anymore. Now I just saw an ad, something called like Joint Chiefs or something like that. And it had like Idris Elba and somebody else, but they were literally like it was like the chief of state, the secretary of state, and it had they were like on these billboards as like Marvel characters, but they're in government. And I said, woo, they stepping up the propaganzals. They propping up that propaganzals, baby. They propping it up. And these niggas just be going along with it. We're too woke, you guys. We're no fun. We're no fun. No one invites us to parties. No one invites us to parties. We're no fun. Because about 10 minutes in, I'm going to start asking people, so what have you said about the genocide? And then I'm going to ask them, what did you say during Black Lives Matter? Like at this point, that's where I'm at now. I'm showing up to parties in a keffiyeh. So there's that. So let's do our roll call and word of the day so we can bring Christina on so she can get y'all together. Hey, from Memphis, Tennessee, Middleborough, Massachusetts, Tampa, Florida, Atlanta, Aurora, Colorado, Chicago, Vancouver, Washington, Greenville, North Carolina. Bonjour from France. Phoenix, Rosenberg, Texas, Sanctuary City, Lancaster, okay, Big Island, Hawaii, Charlotte, but she from Queens, baby. Lima, Peru, Tokyo, Lagos, Nigeria, Mexico City, Leeds, UK, Newport News, VA, Birmingham, Alabama. What else we got? We got Kansas City, Missouri, the Caribbean of Mexico, Las Vegas, Kampala, Uganda, España, Yakima Valley, Washington. We got Los Angeles, California, Las Vegas, Nevada, Rhode Island, Deborah Aarons, Madison, Wisconsin. Detroit is in the house, 313. St. Martin, Dutch Caribbean, Columbus, Ohio, Neptune, humid in London, good morning, race, Rancho Cucamonga, California. Bertha said, hell on earth. I feel you. The Hague, Bay Area, Brooklyn, North Carolina, Philly, Duval, Cincinnati, Denver, Colorado, Corona, California, Sacramento, Cali, Dublin, Germany, Sunnyvale, California, East Providence, Rhode Island, Charlotte by way of Detroit. Amanda Landers here to learn. Thank you for telling me where you're watching from. Yeah, 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 yeah. That was pretty seamless for somebody who feels like trash. I just wanted to point that out. All right, let's get into our word of the day. Fun fact, when you're sick, your vocal cords have a lot more blood rushing to them, so you can sometimes hit even higher notes. It only lasts for like a day, though. Let's get into our word of the day. The word of the day is undulate. Undulate. Get your head out the gutter. Undulate. To move with wave-like motion. Undulate. UNDULATE. Because my brain is still in the gutter. They say it's not the size that matters, it's the undulation. And both for me are required. If you have a short vagina, then, it doesn't matter for you. And that's just that. But as anyone knows who's been to my stand-up shows, I did have a gynecologist tell me, Amanda, you have a very deep vagina. And that, all right. He said it as it was a compliment. So I didn't really know how to take it, but I decided to consider it an asset. All right, now, can anyone use undulate in a sentence? Undulate is a verb. It is a verb that means to move with wave-like motion, UNDULATE. And remember that, when you hear words like this, they often are used within contexts that are not literal. So I will say, there we go. John C. gave us a great example. My anxiety is undulating for a myriad of reasons. Perfect example. Perfect. Elijah says, I'm fitting to undulate all summer. You know what? That is correct. That is correct. That is correct. Cynthia Perez is in the hospital watching the show, and I don't know if you're there because you work there or because you are healing, but we want to send you some love. Either way, it's a stressful time. All right. TMD says the American president is undulating with his policy. Mobb Deep's quiet storm always makes me undulate. All right. I put my lifetime in between the papers lines. I'm the quiet storm nigga who fight rhymes. PEA, you heard of him? Man, I never heard of them. Nigga got more guns than you holding them. Don't get me started, please. Hot damn ho, here we go again. Light as a rock, hard as a... Ron Simmons says, I can't undulate as I used to because of my MS. All right, work with it, work with it. Sending you love and healing. And Juicy said, good music undulates through my body. Yeah. And let's get one more. Let's get one more. Diana said, I do my best to undulate to the beat during my cardio dance workouts, but I'm white and 44 and can't really do it. You got to know your strengths. All right. We are about to get into our level up segment of the day with our great guest, Christina Brown. So let's get into it. AmandaLand. We up. Christina Brown.
Hello. I have a sentence for undulate.
Please.
My gut is undulating after eating some cheese. Lactose intolerance.
But was it worth it?
Yeah.
Okay, because that's the thing. Cheese is that girl.
It is.
It really
Unfortunately.
is. And y'all be knowing that the lactose intolerances, y'all be knowing, but you like, I'll just thug it out.
I'll do it for Big Mac. I don't do it for anything else but Big Mac.
Okay. All right. As somebody who eats night cheese, I have massa in me, and sometimes it shows up in the best of ways. And I feel like the massa in me can handle a lot of dairy.
Wow. I can't.
So, your blackness showed up different than mine.
It did in the gut. Because I can't do it. I can barely breathe it, smell it.
Oh. All right. Well, thankfully, we are only here virtually. We're here virtually. So this is Christina Brown, Miss Xtina B on the Instagrizzles and the TikTokals. And so this segment, Christina, is one where I really just be bringing in folks who I know be reading shit and who be trying. And so sometimes it's experts, but sometimes it's also people who are like trying to become knowledgeable about things. And yeah, because that's the other part of it is that it's one thing to I'm going to go to school and become an expert at blah, 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 or I am a farmer. But a lot of us are really just trying to learn about things, and we don't necessarily know like the best course of action to do so, et cetera. But some of us are really good at that. And I feel like you're somebody who's really good at saying, I'm going to learn about this, finding out where to learn about it, synthesizing it, and then spitting it out.
Yeah.
Right?
I feel like I'm a forever student, and that doesn't necessarily have to be in the academic elitist institutions, even though, don't get it twisted, I do a master's. But there's other ways to be knowledgeable and have knowledge. And oftentimes I feel like I see some similar principles in street smarts that I do in academic smarts anyways. It's just niggas saying it in different ways and they're not using the right quote unquote vernacular. So yeah, I definitely consider myself like a forever learner.
Though I will bring out the elitism when people try to come at me but have no punctuation. I will actually
I will be like, cite your source. Cite your source.
Did you just try to come for me and there was not one period in this paragraph? Okay. Then I will become an elitist and be like, if you're gonna try to use the King's English to come at me, at least do it right.
Do it correct.
Okay. So that being said, I know you heard me tell the people that I'm gonna just hand it over to you while I work.
Okay.
So what are you leveling us up about today? What have you been leveling yourself up about?
That's what it is. I want to level us up on something that I've been leveling myself up about recently. And that, if I could put in a sentence, is like ancestral resilience and resistance. And tapping and understanding what that was, not just intellectually, academically, spiritually.
So this is actually very timely because I just did an episode
of
Surrounded.
Christians on the chat.
I just did an episode of Surrounded.
But we don't have to talk about the Christianity. Oh no.
Oh no.
Something happened with the internet. You were saying something?
Yes.
I'm back.
Okay, you're back. So this is actually very timely because what was happening is that this weekend I did an episode of Surrounded on Jubilee on YouTube, where it was one black radical against 20 black versus 20 black conservatives. And that's better. I was telling them, I was like, that's better for people like Christina, Afeni, like the youngers. It's not, y'all gotta do that. For me, it's not for me.
You just did it? Is it out?
I did it on Sunday. No, it's not out yet, but I did it on Sunday. And I just don't have the countenance anymore. Like, I feel like I'm working to get in my softer side, and like that doesn't allow for me to do that. That being said, I think I handle myself fine. But what was really disconcerting was how many of them were so deeply committed to this concept of, why can't black people just get it together? We're supposed to be resilient. Why are we always hurting each other? If we're resilient, why is it that I can level up, but this other person can't? And I was trying to really take the stance of, acknowledging that there are so many like various factors that allow for this, even just the basic one of like, I have different abilities than you as an individual, etc. But they kept coming back to like, well, if this black did it, why can't that black do it? Look at your face. Because that was,
sorry.
I don't know what my face was doing. I know my face was contortionist. Okay.
Your face, you can't hide a facial expression.
I can't hide a face. And also I felt somewhat sad for them. There was also a lot of immigrant, like black folks in the circle, who had a lot to say. And as somebody who is both, I had to eventually, I don't know if they're going to keep this in the edit, but I had to eventually look dead in the camera and say, hey, check this out. If you are a black person that is not from the United States, not too much on what it is to be a black person from the United States. Not too much on that, because you don't understand the nuances and the specificities of what it is to be a black person in this here United States as a descendant of that experience. And there are folks who are not from here that get it, like, whether it was Stokely Carmichael or Shirley Chisholm or, Shirley Chisholm is from here, but she grew up in Bahamas and Jamaica. But, Barbados, Marcus Garvey, etc. But not too much. Not too much. And as far as being a part of the diaspora, we should be able to not have judgment, but have curiosity. And this is what you talk about with your diaspora wars.
All the time. And all the time. It's particularly because I feel like it was my living experience and traveling that had me approach and just interact with the diaspora in a different way.
Yeah.
And it constantly still learning. Like, I'm from SoCal. And I just moved to New York 3 years ago. Different black ethnic the demographic, and like
there's not even Dominicans in SoCal. They're like, what is a Dominican? What's that?
Yeah, for honestly, dead ass. And I tell people that, and they're like, what, really? And I'm like, I'm telling you, I didn't know when people were talking about, you look like you're from Diana or Trini. I'd be like, what are you talking about?
And you do, actually.
And I do. And when I'm in DC, they're like, Habsha, you don't speak Amharic. And when
I'm not Ethiopian, I'm not Eritrean, I'm not
Not. When I'm in Senegal, they're like, Fulani. No, and it was being in these different settings abroad in Europe, visiting Senegal, living now in New York, being from Southern California, like seeing the way, just my own curiosity in the diaspora and similarities. I'm really annoyed that we don't see the similarities. That's really what pisses me off.
It's rice and beans. It's rice and beans. We did a whole episode of my podcast about this, by the way, with Christina. It's rice and peas. It's peas and rice. It's rice and beans. It's just.
I don't understand how, and even down to like people looking at that center scene. I've seen diaspora wars happen from that center, the scene in Centers where Sammy's playing the guitar and then he's a griot.
Oh, my favorite scene. Yeah.
I know. And people arguing about, and this shows that this stems from Africa. Your culture is African culture. And then people being like, well, no, this has nothing to do. And it's like, the point of that scene is to show connection.
Isn't that obvious? That wasn't obvious?
You would think.
I want to go take a nap. I want to take a nap.
It's to show connection.
It's literally that's its purpose, is to show we're all
connected, and how it transmutes.
Supernaturally.
And how it transmutes. And how we transmuted it. And I think that's my frustration right now. I really am feeling that's where I've been leveling up myself a bit, and calling out even my own ignorance, and stuff that I might have, or no, 100% have grown up with, not understanding other aspects of the Black experience or the diasporic experience or aspects of Blackness that I can and cannot relate to. Like, I feel as though the crabs in a bucket mentality, unfortunately, has really, wow, done a number on us. It's done a number on us, the way that we argue, the way that we fight, the way that even the pointing that you were talking about the Black conservatives, if I can do it, why can't this other Black do it? Whoa.
That's so weird. It's like I could do a handstand right now. You can't.
And also, maybe you're supposed to be able to do that, and I'm supposed to do this.
That's what I said. And that's what I said, Christina B. That's what I said. I was like, we all have different capabilities, and really the mutual aid, the cooperative, the community part of it is that if I have more of this capability than you, then I'm going to extend it to you. And if you have more of that, then you're going to extend it to me. And like, that's how we all work together in tandem. If we are in a forest, my type of tree might be able to go higher to get the sun, and your type of tree might be lower. But because I'm getting the sun, I can, my nutrients, send my roots could send you the nutrients I'm getting. Like, that's the whole point.
Yeah, that's the point. But instead, everyone, because capitalism, you have to be everything. So if you're not everything, then you're not of value. And that's been part of my own, why I brought up like ancestral resistance and resilience, is learning like direct lineage. What were my people doing? Talking to elders, hearing stories of the folks in my family who were part of the Black Panthers, folks in my family who were the artists and the creatives. Like, and understanding that I'm not reinventing anything. I'm simply transmuting it.
Yeah.
We all have people. Well, I believe some of our ancestors were kings. I do believe that. Some of y'all,
some of y'all weren't.
Some of y'all were not doing work. And the overseers had kids, and they had kids, and they had kids.
There is a false romanticism that everybody was down when there were many people that were like, shh, you stirring up trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Not and everybody, like Martin Luther King died like really sad because he felt dissed by everybody. So, but okay, talk to them about resilience, and I'm gonna be busy over here. So okay, I'm gonna mute myself.
Am I able to see comments or no?
You can't see them?
No, I'm just being yapping.
You can't see the comments? Yes, you can.
How do I?
I'll put them on the stage. Now? But yeah, you should be. You can't see them in the chat?
All I see is chat with everyone in the studio.
Well, I'll put them on the stage.
Cool. I would like to see them. Yeah, I don't know why I can't. Is it, am I messing up with the settings?
I feel like perhaps, but I just put it on the screen. So
okay. Sounds good.
I'm gonna be quiet.
Doable. Okay. So yeah, I want to start off like with my own kind of experience of how I got into really digging into history. I'm a history buff, and with the lack of media literacy and critical thinking and reading comprehension and critical race theory, I'm fearing that history is being lost in the sauce, especially when history is always repeating itself. I'm like, we've been here before. I don't know if anyone else is feel that way, but like, I'm seeing we've been here before. We've been here before. What was it? It just looks different and manifests somewhat differently, but it's the same beast. It's the same evil. And I'm just like, what was it that our people were doing back then, and actually applying it into what is happening now, and learning how to apply it and transmute it and use it in the modern day. So pattern recognition. Hello. I'm literally reading a book called The Slave. The book is called The Slave. Period. What's the author? I'm gonna look that up. Speaking of books and how I got started on this is I feel like we forget that we have direct history, or I don't think that's true. I think when I talk to a lot of Black folks, we do have a very direct history. Like, I'll never forget when my grandma told me randomly, they'd just be dropping historical stuff. She told me that she picked cotton when she was 8 years old, going back down to South Carolina. And I was like, excuse me? Huh? And that was my first instance when I was I think I was in high school, where I was like, oh, this history is not that long ago. The history is not that long ago. And I want to dig into that. I want to dig into that. So I've been digging into what exactly my direct lineage and ancestors have done. And it started where I found out one of my great uncles back from, and I'm working on trying. Okay, I'm working on getting it republished, I think. But he wrote what my family calls the first Black dictionary, or dictionary we be gassing
You're
our history.
buffering like crazy. You must be disrupting the matrix because the buffer is serious. She's buffering. She is buffering. If you're watching on Instagram and you want to hear what's happening, then you need to come on over to YouTube Amanda Seales TV. All right, now you're coming back. You were buffering this whole time. We didn't hear nothing you said.
The whole time I was buffering?
Well, for the past like 30 seconds, which felt like a long time because we're on the internet.
Okay, all right. Thank God. I was talking about my uncle. Okay,
you were
I
saying
switched
that
my.
you wanted to republish something that your uncle did.
Yes. Yes. So I found out my uncle was an academic, artist, writer, creative poet, and that he wrote this book in the early 70s called Black Language. And I found a copy online. And it's like what he calls it, like a dictionary on the Black language. And when I was reading it, I was so surprised, not surprised, but it felt so invigorating to see the same shit that we're talking about today, they was talking about back then. I wasn't alive for it, but in the 60s, 70s, they're talking about it. And this was something that eventually was brought into the curriculum at Cal State universities. If anyone's from California, you know the Cal State system. That's where he was a professor. And he taught that in his classrooms, in a curriculum. And he was a teacher in high schools. And I was reading some of this stuff and I said, I didn't reinvent the wheel, is what I'm realizing. That was a connection that I was making, that like, oh, he was writing a book. I'm making content online. And it's just simply the mediums in which we are using and storytelling and being the griots of making sure that we're documenting what is going on. And while I felt like a lot of reverence for like, oh my gosh, 50 years ago, 60 years ago, I have someone in my family, people in my family who were saying the same things, I also felt that, damn, 50, 60 years ago, they were saying the same damn thing. What is the message that we like need to say to kind of like move it along? And that's not to say that no progress or progress hasn't happened, because obviously it has, but I don't know. Now that we see ourselves in a time that feels very polarizing, it feels very violent, it feels very, the pattern recognition history buff in me is like, oh no, guys, it's getting serious. If y'all know anything about history, it's gonna get worse. And I feel we've moved past the time. I know Amanda has been talking about, I'm not arguing with people online no more. I think we might have moved past the time of like being able to sit down and give people the ropes to kind of like slowly get to the point. And now we at the point where it's like, we got to build a tribe. Who is going to be the community? Who is going to be here? Who is going to do what? Because there's not enough time to sit and argue while literally people are being stripped away from families. Places are being bombed.
That's literally what this morning I had 3 different ideas of spaces I want to create for that purpose.
Really? Wait, which purpose? What are we going to do? Who's showing up?
Building, like the point of saying like, I don't have time to argue with you because I need to be building. So I need to like already be in community with folks that already get it. And I'm new, and I've always been sensibly there, but not informatively there. Mm-hmm. So now it's like the pay it forward era of like, okay, we got to expedite this quick.
We have to. We've been trying. People haven't been listening for years. I've been making social content for 5 years, and I'm like, bro, we're having the same discussions. Some people are just not going to get it. And we love to talk about how Harriet left people behind. I'm like, we're approaching that, if not there for some things. Folks got to be left behind. When it comes to Israel-Palestine, folks got to be left behind. Folks got to be left behind. If you aren't on the right side of history right now, you're gonna be the one looking back, being like, wow, that I was on that side of history. You know what I mean? But so for the ways that I've been the ways I want to talk about kind of like, I saw some talking about venerating ancestors. There's a thing that I particularly really liked that Amanda, you started doing that was right around the time that I was feeling it, is you started through comedy and in your woman show literally like showing you a conjuring or venerating an ancestor and speaking as them with your like Harriet Tubman's calling, and like that is exactly what I mean, and that's why I was like, we're gonna talk to the Christians, Black Christians in the room, because Black Christianity, Black conservatism. Actually, I'm gonna read a passage from this book of what my uncle said. Uncle Malachi Andrews is his name, bringing him into the space. And he wrote this whole thing outside of academic language on purpose. He said it in an article at Los Angeles Times. It's all written. It's written for Black people. And he's like, I don't have to. What did he say? The book was written for Black people, not to bridge the gap between Blacks and whites. Whites reading the book will bridge their own gap. He didn't care about none of that. And that was an LA Times article in 1973. That's people I come from. Said, oh. So this is about the chapter he says about sometimes we cuss too, and he's talking about Black Christianity.
Have you ever heard the phrase "someone got blessed out"?
No.
My homegirl said that to me the other day, that in the church they'd be like, she had to bless him out.
Bless him out instead of cuss him out?
Yeah.
Well.
And I was like, yeah.
Some would say it is a blessing.
Mm.
You know? He starts this off by saying, Black churches, however, may not look at this work objectively due to what is deemed profane language, so-called by white dictionaries and perpetuated by all races of people. Black preachers have also been guilty of racism, mainly by not going out into the world to learn and know the people that they are trying to save. They have been waiting for sinners to come to them begging, like the white man has wanted Black people to beg and crawl. That's another reason why Christianity is losing its grip on American emotions, because many of the so-called God's ministers have lost the vision, which is for tomorrow, and have been dreaming too much. Most preachers are scared that most preachers aren't scared that they ain't really sent and anointed to lead the people anyway. They have psychological problems. Withdrawal is their number one malfunction. They withdraw from the real world and become insecure with the power of God by saying, if you go around sinners, read about or talk to them, you will become tempted and do what they do. But if God's power is in you, you can read this book and still don't cuss, see sex, and still not fornicate. God was tempted, wasn't he? Jesus went to the gamblers, didn't he? But he didn't start gambling. Ain't too many people gonna be saved anyway. Some of them people on that train that they think's going to heaven gonna fall out their wallets. Well.
Well, let me tell you. So at that surrounded joint, the person there were two people that were just like absurdly egregious. One of them I had to have removed after he told me I acted like an animal.
Oh, I can't wait for this episode to drop.
I told them I don't want that in the episode, because that's why people like that, they do that for that.
Yeah.
What do they call it? A humiliation ritual? Is that what it's?
Humiliation kink?
There's some like term that's like people be trying to do this online or whatever. And I was like, no, ma'am, get him out of here. But the other person who was just antagonizing was a reverend.
Yeah.
And he was a reverend, and he kept saying, white supremacy doesn't exist. Redlining never happened. We got to stop talking about white people. He was clearly from the South. And I'm not going to lie to you, Christina. I love what your uncle said, because statements like that are so egregiously incorrect that I don't even know where to start with how to, because it feels like antithetical to my body to argue a fact that's already so empirically proven.
Yeah. It's antithetical to the soul. It's antithetical to the soul. He also created his own words.
That's my favorite thing.
You want to hear it?
I love it.
He created this word called Oreo frantic. So the whole thing, it's literally this is his words. It's a glossary of words, and he went around for 3-ish years to different Black cities around like the United States and talked to people and wrote down
What does
just how
Oreo
they
frantic
felt.
mean? What does
Oreo
Oreo frantic
frantic.
mean?
This is the most common of all psyglycotic disorders and is tagged by a loss of affect in soul responsiveness and a withdrawal from normal psychoblackological interpersonal relations, and is most of the time sided with delusions and hallucinations of whiteifications.
Am I your uncle? Did I reincarnate as your uncle? Because that's a very Caucasian explanation.
You might be. Whiteifications he uses as like, oh, where is that word? That word describes basically just a Black person that has like hallucinations of being an Oreo or believing in white supremacy. It's so funny. He came up with psychoblackology. He also, in the back of this, he gave a essay example of what it would look like to write an essay in Black language, Ebonics, AAV, whatever you want to call it. He just called it Black language. But he wrote an essay example of how, like, if we use and we allow Black language in classrooms, this is what like an essay would look like. And the title of this one is "Nigga, you might have been super, but what about the rest of us?" I really wish I'm reading verbatim.
Isn't it bugged to be able to see exactly where you came from and how you are, right? Like it's so trippy when you're like, oh, that's why I'm me.
That's why I act like this. I didn't reinvent a wheel. I'm gonna read 2 paragraphs because he ate. Look, here's the title: "Nigga, you might have been super, but what about the rest of us who's just Black?" Nigga, with your MA degree, you trying to help whitey change the system in the American tradition? Now, I know you shame because the American tradition ain't never included you, brother. I'm telling you, child, to pick up what I'm putting down because as kids sent tradition down the streets. We can't use it. Nigga, can you read? Well, dig on this.
Wait. Let me hold on to that for a second. Nigga, can you read? Nigga, can you read is amazing. Like that, it really feels very like, nigga, can you read?
Someone said start off an essay with nigga is hilarious.
That's my favorite part. That's my absolute favorite part. But this is also, can I just take a moment to acknowledge that this is why when people be like, you know, if you use the word nigga, it's no longer intellectual, is such a, I know in their minds they're being preservative of like Black pride and our identity, but it completely dissects, it completely ostracizes an entire subsect of our community that does speak like that.
Right. And that we're multilingual.
Wait, Naya Nicole said, it's my favorite word, me personally. But
honestly, it's so useful.
I had a homegirl and she would ask me when I started to like date somebody, she would ask me, do they use nigga? Because that would be like a really good way for us to kind of determine like, can we communicate?
Absolutely.
Carry on.
Okay.
I'm enjoying this greatly.
Nigga, can you read? Well, dig on this. Frantz Fanon wrote in Wretched of the Earth. I'm going to pause because the duality. Nigga, can you read? Frantz Fanon in the Wretched of the Earth. Period.
Well, Christina, do you see how this is giving you a template to your next steps? Like we were talking about like, where does Christina fit in the, because you were like, I don't fit in the, but do you see?
Yeah.
I have chills.
I know, same. Because it's, okay, let me finish.
I can see your future.
Yeah. So you got to go in the past to see your future. Nigga, can you read? Well, dig on this. Frantz Fanon wrote in The Wretched of the Earth, the desire to attach oneself to tradition or bring abandoned tradition to life again does not only mean going against the current of history, but also opposing one's own people. Did you hear that? Black culture. Nigga, that's what you're opposing when you say, I don't have to talk that way to be Black. I can talk elite and still relate. Run, nigga. Put your ego, white, good English voice on television and get over. I mean, listen, daddy. It's all right, and I ain't uptight about you living on Sugar Hill, but why don't you think your stuff don't stink and side with Whitey saying, Negro talking is not a reality, and Negroes should forget Black language because it is not going to get them anywhere. You sound like a white record struck on a 100-year phrase. Where you want us to go, nigga? With you? Shining black on? You forget that there are a bunch of us Black children right now, today, with fantastic minds being persecuted as illiterates because our mothers speak Black language, our communities speak Black language. You too stupid to remember that if you was born with brains, but your environment is of a particular culture, you will be what your culture influences you to be. I live here and I likes Black culture. English is our second language here, and it's for damn sure that most of us got to study like hell to learn it. I'm going to learn it though, nigga, so I can talk about your bigotry and how you screwing us by trying to
Ooh,
make us whites. But I ain't never gonna
ooh.
forget. And then he ends, but I ain't never gonna forget Black with my MA degree. Ooh.
Just while I remember, can you please make a note? Please try to be in New York September
Write it down.
20th and 21st, please.
Okay.
I mean, I get, if life happens, whatever. I'll explain to you why after. But I'm having
Yeah.
I'm having the AmandaLand Summit. It's the first of its kind.
2021st?
September 20th. Yeah, it's September 19th, 20th, and 21st.
Okay.
But the 20th will be a day of programming. And I want to talk to you about being involved.
I would love that.
Nigga.
Can you read? And I'll never forget I'm gonna reread that part and then we're gonna talk about that. I live here and I like Black culture. English is our second language here, and it's for damn sure that most of us got to study like hell to learn it. I'm going to learn it though, nigga, so I can talk about your bigotry and how you screwing us by trying to make us white. But I ain't never gonna forget Black with my MA degree. That part, again, crazy. It's my great uncle's words. I'm like, this is crazy. Resonated so much with me because it's like, just because we are living within the institutions and surviving within these certain institutions does not mean that we have to abandon oneself, and seeing it as a language or a tool to simply talk to the oppressor and talk to those about their bigotry and not being a tool to abandon oneself is something that I feel we need a reminder of, because a lot of Black folks will be like, we look to the tools, we use these tools to become white, to be white, to be better than, and not seeing it as like, this is simply just another language for me to communicate and navigate the system.
But look at this comment.
My
Hawaiian heart felt that.
Yeah.
Because that's the next step, is being able to not only let it speak for Black folks, but the coalition building of how we then communicate with each other about the ways in which
Absolutely.
the same behaviors are happening to each other.
Because it's the same formula. It's the same formula. And one of the things that because I learned French in a very tangible way, like learning a different language and traveling and being around folks where you don't speak the same language. One of the first things I actually recognize is there's so much said and so much communicated in a similar experience and in nonverbal communication that I have been able to find camaraderie in folks that we're from different parts of the world, don't speak the same language, and have completely different experiences. And in my stand-up, I do tell a story about I've had sex with somebody where we didn't have to speak the same language. I said,
How was it?
It was great until we had to plan B scare, and then I had to communicate in Germany to a man who spoke 3 languages, none of which I spoke, and then I spoke 2, none of which he spoke, about how to get a plan B in a country I had
why was y'all smashing with no protection?
We were, but how rated R?
Side note, one time, y'all gonna learn a little
it
bit
fell
more
inside.
about me right now.
It fell inside.
Y'all gonna learn a little bit more about me right now. 10 days after an encounter, I was going to the restroom and I felt something slide out of me, and I thought that my uterus was protracting. that is what in my mind was like, oh, like an organ is removing itself from my body. No.
Oh.
It was a prophylactic. I had not been informed. At least your German man found a way to say in German, like, sprechen Sie inside of you.
What happened?
And this English speaker did not say nothing to me.
He didn't say nothing?
I damn near broke my phone with just the volume of my anger.
He didn't
Nothing.
say nothing.
I did not know. I didn't know.
That's crazy.
That is, I don't think it was stealthing. I think he just was not, he was just nervous.
Well, see, I had seen him pull, and I said, "Where is it?" And he went, "I know phone," and he, you know, it's I know, and then there was a lot of consensual charades happening the whole night, so like that's how we were communicating. And he looked at me and then gestured down, and I went. It was so dramatic, and I pulled it out of me. He was no help, and he was no help really. And then he wanted to go again. I said, "Oh, niggas across the diaspora are the same. They speak the same language. Audacity. You have to leave. It doesn't matter.
Audacity. Yeah.
Wow, how we get there? But any black language, no. But that not even having to seeing the similarities across cultural, across race, across like just being able to see folks use the same formula on different communities, which is why it's really getting me hot that so much of the Black community doesn't really give a fuck about the immigration rates happening.
Wait, can I just address this real quick? Even though we're trying to be adults, it's not because it's too big. It's because we're too wet.
Grippy.
Yeah.
Kegels.
I am. You know, on a basic note, so I did a video with, now you're just hanging out with me and Christina, by the way. So I did, that's really what's happening now. I did because I like you a lot. And they'd be like, and they know that I don't be liking people. I don't be. But, so I did an interview with Quentin, Funky Dineva. We did a talk about just Iran and everything. And then I had also said to him on the side, like, we need to talk about you telling your people about like not caring about this ICE stuff. And he was like, let's talk about it. And I was able to switch his perspective in one sentence. And I was like, I don't care how people vote. I can't cheer on any effort of white supremacy to advance itself.
And
he was like, oh, damn
it. He didn't see.
He didn't. And I honestly feel like that's part of the indoctrination. And that's part of what your uncle is beating back. And that's part of what you're beating back. It is the imperial effort of individualism that is like finding itself in some weird, amorphous cancer that's worked its way into this Black community where we are now carrying out imperialism against
ourselves. people talking about that ain't got nothing to do with me. They're changing. They're number one. They're attacking. First of all, I don't give a fuck about a border. Borders don't even care about borders. Ask a border how they feel about themselves. Border made up.
I just saw Howard Zinn talking about. And if you've never read Howard Zinn's The History of the People of the United States, please read it. But he was like, we don't talk about open borders because we want there to be trade. We talk about open borders because like the world is for all the peoples.
Like, what are we talking about? But they like, this ain't got nothing to do with me. They're changing the status. They're changing the definition of legal and immigrant. And you don't think they could change the definition of citizen?
There is no definition of citizen, by the way. Nowhere in
You're right, yeah.
Nowhere in the Constitution does it doesn't say the definition of citizen. It just says citizen. It doesn't say the definition, and that is by design. You think these crackers were smart. The ones in the House right now are not, but the ones who started the joint, like they was inventing electricity and whatnot. Like these were not dummies.
No. They were strong with their hate. They had to go to printing presses for pamphlets. You know how committed. They were commit, and if white liberals and had the same type of commitment, maybe we would get. But anyways, so that's the why I said racist committed back in the day. It's. I'm glad that one sentence changed his mind. I get real impatient because I'm like, isn't it right there? Like,
No.
it's right there, but you want to punch down on folks to get a semblance of a white man of a semblance of privilege of what a white man could feel like. And that's very disappointing. It's disappointing. It's annoying. It's irritating, and something that like we've also been talking about and dealing with.
Someone just said that they was in Whole Hoods in 103 degrees. Like that's the dedication.
With 2 slits. Like that hate fueled them, honey. If they go to migrants, who do black folks think they plan to do? Who do black folks think they plan to do the labor? Black folks are already doing the labor, and that's another thing. Prison industrial complex. It's already happening.
I know that there's been conversation around this concept of like we need to look at these are just people. It's not just what they bring to the country, it's that they're people. And I hear you. I also want to acknowledge though that there is something to be said for that these folks are skilled people. They're skilled. Mm-hmm. So it's not even I'm not saying it for what it does for the country. I'm just acknowledging that like these are not just regular old anybody's, okay? Like you can't succeed in this country without a skill, and that's the part. Unless you're white.
Ooh, let's let that marinate.
My mom was a workers' comp, case manager for like my whole life, and she was like, "I'm gonna tell you now, all the immigrants are like, how do I get back to work? How do I get back to work? I know that I have one less leg now. How do I get back to work?" Everybody else, she was like, the white Americans would be like, how can I get on disability? Immediately.
Well, who are the welfare queens?
And so it's very much a very real conversation around a huge shift that's happening right now. So when you talk about the concept of resiliency, can you lead us to where you feel like that exists at present in terms of its misuse or its proper use or its necessity to be tapped into?
Resiliency now.
Resiliency Now sounds like a spinoff of Amy Goodman's Democracy Now! That I host.
It does. Yeah, it does. I think people are trying to find. I think people are trying to find their resiliency. Certain people. I'm going to speak specifically from the context of living in America, being American, being queer black woman in America, right? Because there's a lot of
queer
folks
black
out.
woman in America.
I sure am.
See, y'all, I just wish I was that flexible.
I'm very in multiple ways. But let's get up to we are adulting today. What was I saying? Oh, because there's a lot of people elsewhere who are having to be even more resilient and dealing with a lot of other difficult things that like I am not. So holding space for that privilege there. But resiliency from my lens right now and folks in my Black community, I feel like I want to say this. I feel like we have to get back to our roots of what resiliency was looking like. I do. I feel a little.
I feel like you're holding back.
I am. I'm trying to figure out how to. Because I'm trying to figure out my words. I guess I could just talk and draft.
Yeah, that's what this space is about. Okay. This is not Instagram where you have to have a fully formed thesis for a bunch of people who've never read to come and tell you, but you forgot. And you're like, it's a 60-second video.
You're right. True. Right. I feel like we've lost a little bit of the art of the resiliency, and not in the way of like, our ancestors got through worse. We could like our ancestors went through worse. I don't think we're actually thinking enough about that. Like, no, fathom the worst that they went through, and the resiliency they had to have, and the decisions they had to make, the comforts they did not have, the ways they had to fight, the ways they had to sacrifice, the way I think we're in an era where it's like we want resiliency on a tote bag.
We want,
Resiliency,
wait, you know what we want? We want a resiliency Telfie. We want a
you
resiliency
know,
Telfar, y'all.
and I think, ooh, getting back to like we're talking about resiliency, but it's like, do you even know the person across the street? I made a video recently where I'm like, you know your best friend's like brunch order, but like, do you know where she keeps her documents? Do you know who's in the home hiding stuff under the mattress? Who are you building with to be like how we're going to fight what might come to us? That was the type of resiliency that like, what is your strength? What is my strength? What is your weakness? How can we offset that? What are you good at? What is your and why it was so important for me tapping back into like my direct lineage is me realizing, oh, I didn't have this strength by myself. I'm not reinventing anything new. This comes from somewhere. It comes from somewhere. It comes from my mom, my daddy, my grandma, my great uncles, people I haven't even met. It's in my spirit. It's in my bones. That is what I need to work with. And I'm sitting here, especially with social media, capitalism, technology, everyone is feeling like they have to be everything. And we're seeing so many things happen just all across the world that I feel like we're losing the lens a little bit of like the micro. And one of the things that I loved
Okay.
learning, I do what one of the things I really loved learning in my academics was that the personal is political, the political is personal.
Mm-hmm.
And what is happening politically and globally is personal. It does affect me
Yes.
personal. And the changes I can make personally can
Reverberate
also
out.
they reverberate out, they matter. Um
Someone
and
tried to tell me that me talking about Andrew Cuomo's run for mayor in New York was not a current event. Then
see what I
someone
see? You see
also
what I mean?
then someone also said, if you don't live in New York City, then keep your mouth out of this conversation. Uh, I live in
So
the
you
United States. I live in the United States.
wh- what what's
Now,
happening? Sorry, go.
I
Sorry.
live in the United States. So the concept that if you don't live in a particular place in the United States, that you shouldn't care about what happens there is so wildly uninformed, even on the basis that these bills are copy and pasted across county, city, and state lines on a regular basis. It actually ends up coming to you. When you see something happen in Tennessee, you should absolutely be saying, how long is it going to take before it gets to me? Because that's the ground zero of white nationalism, Tennessee and Texas, if you didn't
Hello.
know.
That is insane. Someone said, "Isn't he currently running?" Yeah.
Yeah.
It's election day today.
Like literally.
It's election day today for the primary. That is scary that they said that's not a current event. These current events are working in tandem. And the thing is,
You're
there's
going to
it's no
appreciate though that the context was you need to stop acting like you didn't encourage people not to vote for Kamala and focus on current events instead of talking about candidates in a city that you don't live in. And people are like, first of all, she didn't. Second of all, this is happening right now. You know what's not happening right now? Kamala Harris as president. That's not happening
that's
right
not
now.
happening at all. You didn't say that. You said hold politicians to a standard and ask for things, demand things. But anyways, that really took me back. My brain is trying to process that. That's projection, more than anything. But to say what is happening in a current NYC mayoral race is directly related to what is happening in California with the ICE raids, what's happening in the Middle East, what's happening in Gaza, what's happening with all of that is all connected.
When did
And
you realize that?
that everything was connected.
Yeah.
When in my life?
Yeah. Did you always know that? Like geopolitically?
Let me think.
I mean, and I mean that in more of a literal way. Like, I feel like
Yeah.
there's a certain esotericness around, like, everything is everything.
I knew everything was connected when I studied abroad in France for the first time. And one of the essays I had to write was a political class I was taking out there in French. So I had to write an essay in French.
Oui, oui, ma
But
chérie.
I wrote an essay. The essay I decided to write was because I went out there right after Je suis Charlie, and then right as those Paris attacks were happening. And there was a lot of anti-Muslim sentiments in France. There still is, but there's a lot. And I found myself while there relating to the Arab and Muslim community and seeing similarities in the way that they were treated. Talking about the no-go zones, the ghettos that they live in, and like hearing white French people talk about them, and I was like, oh, so my assessment of that attack, I had to been like 1920, was like, y'all have been pushing people so much. This is the oppressed group, and maybe there was a violent type of retaliation, but I'm not seeing it. I'm relating to this oppressed group. And so the essay I wrote was like a comparison between Muslim sentiments in America and anti-Muslim sentiments in France. And the professor, when I handed it in, she was like, "Oh, because it's just very polarizing." And I was like, "Yes," because it made me think about after 9/11. And that is, my 19, 20-year-old brain. I was like, huh, based off of what I've heard, because I was like 6 when 9/11 happened. But
Stop showing off.
I'm not showing off. I'm just, I was like, based off of
6 when 9/11 happened is wild.
It was. But I was like, oh, this is all connected. And talking to people just outside of the country, being outside of the country for the first time in my young adulthood was like, yeah, this is all connected. And then
but the moral of the story is you had to be out of the country.
And seeing the privilege an American passport got me. That is something that a lot of Black folks in America have not. We're just ignorant. We're ignorant, truly in the ignorance, and maybe intellectually, but even the experience of it. I think it's different knowing that than actually being like, if it's between me, a Black person, and I got an American passport, and another Black person who doesn't, I'm actively seeing how even though this country who oppresses and suppresses me, and I like to say that like marginalized groups within America, we exist. We exist in its own kind of, it's not the global South, but it's like it's like a,
it's a subsect.
It's a subsect of the American identity. When I leave, that has such a protection in certain scenarios and situations that other Black folks, other folks do not have. And I had to sit with that and realize that and see that. And I was like, wow, living here, it's been interesting as immigrant Americans talk about it. Oh, I want to hear more. I got an A on the essay.
And Melissa grew up together in gymnastics, and then she moved to Paris. And, being an American in Paris is its own journey. Because they really be like, ew, you're an American. Like, you didn't know that we're supposed to load the dishwasher this way? Oh, my God.
It's true. Meanwhile, don't use deodorant, but.
So Melissa said, I get in a lot of arguments with French people. Honestly, I'm very impressed that you can argue in French, Melissa. Yes.
That's their love language. That's the French love language, is arguing. So you get hit real quick. That's the true romance of Paris, is arguing.
Bouton.
Mais c'est noir. Racisme, ça existe pas. It does. And honest to God, even I was in France when George Floyd happened. And the just seeing the mirroring, and through, obviously, when I got my master's in international relations and diplomacy, it was in France. So getting a master's in international relations outside of America, talking to people from literally different parts of the world, I was like, yeah, this is all connected. The personal is political, the macro is the micro is macro,
Mm-hmm.
the international is national, is local. And I have to consistently remind myself of that when I feel like I'm not doing enough, or I feel like I have to do all of these things. And I'm like, well, let me first start. Let me see if I can shift something here. Because if I can't even shift here, fuck I'm
Right.
gonna do on a big stage, you know? Um,
How old are you
and then
now?
I'll be 30 this year. You keep what?
No, in my mind, no, because you're mature beyond your years.
Yeah. I have an Aquarius rising and a Scorpio sun. Yeah, it's just a lot of Pluto and Saturn in my chart. Older
I
middle
feel
child.
I feel there's a real guidance for you in the work that you're doing that I think a lot of people should covet because it's really tough figuring out a path. But boy, when you can kind of like walk in steps but still make your own version of it, like, do your own choreo down a yellow brick road, it is a
Trying.
bit easier.
I'm trying. I feel like I've zoomed out. I've had to do a zoom out to be like, I'm and the social media, that also just makes it different. I'm like, our folks back in the day didn't have social media. There was no Instagram, there was no TikTok, there was no make a video in 60 seconds, there was
Nope.
no, like, it was
There
very, you
wasn't
had
even
to,
the connectivity that the immediate access.
no, there wasn't. And it comes with pros and cons. And I've been, part of me, that is where my opinion about, like, ugh, bringing back micro is coming from, because I'm like, that figuring out the balance. Oh, thank you. It's been, you'd be surprised what can happen when you speak actually, you wouldn't be surprised what can happen when you speak
I
your
was
mind,
like,
but
me?
no, just in general.
It's like, I'm not surprised
Um,
about any of that.
I've, you speak your mind in a certain way, even the people that you're like, really, you?
Hmm.
I thought you would at least get it. You don't even get it. Wow.
Nope.
Okay, I must be silent.
Don't do
and
that,
sip
sir.
and watch. What?
Don't be silent. Don't do that.
I feel like I
Get louder.
wait. I'm
That's
talking about to specifically name and call people out and point at them and be like, they did this, but
fair. Yeah.
I'm
It's
like,
funny. I just said that about my book because I brought my book back from the
mm,
publisher, and I do quite a bit of that in there. And I was like, when they least expect it, the book will go drop, and they're
and
gonna
it
be like,
should,
because they're gonna think
and it should.
because they're gonna think that I don't know why I felt like the need. I don't know why a West Indian accent felt like that was needed for that.
I feel it,
But they're gonna be just walking through life thinking they got away with
and you didn't.
really being low vibrational beings. And then booyaka shot! The truth are
Hello,
gonna hit them right in the middle of the forehead.
and a lot of people. It's a lot of people, and I really, it's deserved. But I do love the obey of hello. I was about to say, I was literally about to say, um, people tap into your ancestral stuff, y'all. Understand your gifts. I need people to understand their gifts, and then collaborate with folks who got different gifts. You ain't got to be
Yeah.
everything, and you're not supposed to be everything. I've come to the point where I realized, and I'm having to claim, meet very griot. I'm here to be oracle. I'm here to grow. I'm here to do the synapses. I'm here to be like, and this is the story, all about how all of our lives got flipped upside down, and the
Mm-hmm.
connections, and to bring the history into the current, and move stories along. I'm not the person that's maybe going to be working with the roots, or I'm not the person that might be always on the front line. I'm not going to be like, what is it that we all have a special makeup of gifts in order to be resilient and in order to fight. And I'm in my era right now of reconnecting with that and connecting with the ancestral lineage that has brought me here, because I just didn't come out of nowhere. And I'm finding that in me reconnecting with it, my family is also. And that is what I mean with like connecting with the resilience, is understanding actually how resilience feels in your body, because your resilience might not look the same as somebody else's, and you might need to collaborate. You might need to collaborate in resilience. We're not getting through any of this alone. Like it's impossible, and it's not. And they want you to think that's by design, and it's not. It is going to take sacrifice. That's another thing. Yeah, sacrificing comfort, sacrificing maybe stability, sacrificing financial stability. It's going to take sacrifice. It is what it is. I don't know what to tell you. And you got to figure out what you can be willing to, what you have the capacity and willingness to sacrifice, and ask for, "Hey, I'm sacrificing this. I might need a little bit of help here."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Be community, but also quote someone in one of the like communal spaces that I'm in a year ago said this, and I never forgotten it. They were like, "How good of a community member are you if you cannot allow community to be there for you?"
Hmm?
Stuck with me. Stuck with me. I said, "Oh."
Right. It's great that you're willing to be out there for everybody, but can you receive?
Can you receive? And if not, is that your ego? Because your ego can't belong in a space of communal, resistance and resilience. It really can't. You got to think about a collective and and yourself within the collective. So I'm working on that, and I feel like it can feel like there's so much happening and so much going on that there's not a lot of time. I'm struggling with that right now. And the way the type of connection I have with my body, Amanda knows, but I just had a procedure, and I've been having so many health things that's like, you need to slow, and you need to connect with
Center,
this. You need to
ground.
center before you go, because if I'm going without feeling centered, whether it's in myself or in community, it's not going to work. And so I'm like, I'm being forced right now to center. And so these are the lessons I'm learning, forever student.
Well, we love it. And you taught us today. And
I'm gonna try to get this republished.
I
This
don't
is
think that's a hard thing to do.
It's not?
No. Have you considered just self-publishing it?
No, I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to do that. Is it
Girl,
easy?
you're Christina. You can figure out how to do that in like a weekend.
I can, huh?
Yeah, you can.
I can. You're right.
And you should self-publish it. Let me not use the language of should. I suggest, unsolicited, of course, but nonetheless, you're on the show, so you're hostage. I suggest maybe doing a version of it that is like a 2025 or 2026 edition that adds in, updated elements of, that kind of bridges. It's like, okay, well, this was the 60s, but there's so much language that has been additive. There's so much that has happened since the 60s. And so it becomes kind of like a posthumous collaboration between you and your uncle, who is your ancestor.
I just got chills. I might cry about that later. Wow.
You're welcome. It's cancer season.
It is.
It's our time. We gonna cry. Don't dry my eyes.
Literally, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's beautiful.
Like that to me sounds like something very feasible for you to do in a really deep, impactful way. And then there's a performance aspect to it that comes with it. It becomes like the work. It becomes like, a work of Christina Brown.
Yeah. And I do want to perform. I'm getting into that bag too. I'm supposed to be. So
thank you for being here.
Thank
you for sharing with us. And keep on keeping on.
Thank you. I hope to come back. This was fun. Oh my God. Oh.
I I'm taking a month off.
Good, nice.
Taking July off, and then we'll be back in August, and we'll be doing the show once a week. And I'm working on having more time to create other things that give people enrichment and education and empowerment. And we've been able to build a really beautiful community here at Views from AmandaLand, and we will continue to do that. And I have other places for all of us to connect. So that's gonna happen.
I love that.
So I will connect with you about other things after.
Yes.
But thank you so much for sharing with us. Thank your uncle for sharing with us.
Thank you, Unc. Malachi, such a Malachi.
Malachi.
Like,
I mean, yeah, exactly.
Oh,
Exactly.
Uncle
It's very
Malachi.
on. It's very
It
like
is.
on the nose. Yes.
It is.
You enjoy the rest of your day.
You too. Goodbye,
Bye.
everybody.
I want to know why the air conditioning is on and my titties are sweating. That's what I want to know. Okay? I'm in my house. And it's I want to know. I want to know. This week's episode of Small Doses Podcast is side effects of being young, black, and radical. And since we just had Christina on, here's a clip. To your very valid points, the United States has always been a piece of shit trash place. There is no reason to connect to that as like the force that we're fighting for. We, in my opinion, have to be the spiritual bodies. We are the soil. We have had to carry within us this vision of something better. And I don't think it has to be limited to only existing here, but I do think that there is a great short-sightedness when we don't acknowledge that there is an impetus and a catalyst that was born here of a particular kind of people that have existed and given to the world in a particular kind of way that no other group of people has given. And I am worried that that is not being acknowledged enough by us because these other motherfuckers do see it and they do use it and they use it against us. And the amount of effort that the Zionists have put into trying to bring Black Americans to their cause is not by accident. So just a real light conversation. just a real light, casual convo. All right. Just a real light, casual convo. Are y'all ready to get into some 60-second headlines? I think it is time to do it. Let's get into it. AmandaLand. 60-second headline. And I run down some news right quick.
Run it down, mama. Put us on.
All right. Some 60-second headlines. Let's get into it. Hold on. I don't know why this is doing. So there's a lot to talk about in the world right now. I don't know. Did anything happen with Iran since we've been on the show? Let me know, because I mean, literally it's been every 2 seconds that we are living, something else is happening. And what? They fired on girl, what are you talking about? So let's get into some 60-second headlines. Let's talk about some, okay, we'll get to that. But I feel like it's important that we acknowledge some things. So we've got a lot going on with the ice of it all. And I find that where we are right now is there's things happening that people just simply don't realize is happening because it's so hard to keep up. Now, we have the ICE situation happening and people are coming to realize that these are not actual ICE agents. These are, in many cases, bounty hunters and corrections officers who have been deputized, who are 1099 workers. They are not members of the federal government, and they are allowed to go around masked to harm people. I want to also point out that this is not simply just men. These are men and people identifying as women. They are no way, they don't deserve to be protected. There is nothing about them that is deserving of being protected. So I am not quite sure why we are just simply letting this go on for so long. But ultimately, that is not okay. And I want to see this shift in a real way. That being said, I saw this the other day, and it really gave me pause. So check out this video.
1930s Germany. Please share this because this one cannot fly under the radar. Enrique Tarrio, the former Proud Boy leader who was just sentenced for his role in the January 6th insurrection and has now rebranded himself as some kind of immigration activist. Not only was he pardoned, but he's now leading a new app called Ice Raid. So what is Ice Raid? It's basically Pokemon Go for ICE. It's a Web3 app that pays people in cryptocurrency to report undocumented immigrants. So users upload photos of suspected undocumented people, pin their location, and if others verify it, you earn crypto rewards. It's disgusting. This is like gamified xenophobia. Tarrio is calling it a decentralized citizen enforcement tool. And I'm calling it what it is. High-tech culture, snitch culture created by literal insurrectionists. And here's the wildest part. The app claims that it's AI facial recognition to track, tag, and verify reports. So they're using AI. So imagine the potential for harassment, for false accusations, and for abuse. We've gone from storming the Capitol to launching digital manhunts for immigrants. This isn't border control. This is mass surveillance, probably brought to you by Palantir. And people are turning fear into profit. Enrique Tarrio went from prison to power. And now he's trying to turn your neighbor into an ICE agent. What are we doing, America?
Now, do you all know who the Gestapo is? And please remember to welcome anybody who's come here from Instagram. You know how we do. We welcome them into the community. We say, we let them know that this is where they are. We are here at the Views from AmandaLand squad, and we want you to join us and be with us. Do you all know what the Gestapo was? And by the way, I use the Gestapo, but they are just simply an example. Okay? Now, the Gestapo were the secret police of the Third Reich. And they were German police that kidnapped and killed not just Jewish people, but anybody who was helping Jewish people, anybody who was homosexual, Black people, Romani people. They were willing to be harmful. Okay? And Madi Andre says it really quickly. Nazi ops. So we have seen this in every fascist government. Every fascist government is going to have a secret police that carries out the will of that fascist government. You cannot tell me that ICE is not that. And even if it isn't in name, I think it is really actually in action. And we know that it includes people who were a part of January 6th. And here we are. This is not just dystopian. This concept of using tech in this fashion is something that, by the way, has already been done by the police. We know, but the facial technology, that they are actively using that to incriminate people even without being able to confirm that they are criminals. So this is just somebody using capitalism to capitalize. And it's deeply concerning. And what's mostly concerning to me about this is the willingness of the populace to go along with this, because we know that the income wage gap is so massive that you have a lot of people that are just like, I got to do what I got to do. And if that means harming you, then so be it. there's such a deep effort that has been put in place to really instill imperialism and the idea of just doing for self within each other, as well as the quest for just funds to live. So when we see that, we know that there really has been a deep-rooted psychosocial effort that we are now watching come to fruition in real time. And I'm with Raekwon. Money controls us. And we allow it so often. We just allow it. We just say, oh, they're just trying to get their bag. Mighty Andre, you better say that. In the 90s, it was all about not selling out. But now it's applauded. Everyone is about the bag. I'm getting the bag. They'll sell their body. They'll sell their family. I got to get the bag. And people have always done that. People have always sold their body or their family, et cetera, to survive. However, now it's become a badge of honor versus a badge of necessity, an act of necessity. So that is something I wanted to really bring to your attention because I had not heard about that. And there's just so much going on the larger scale of the media. Like the media is, I know this may sound like really generic, but the media as it exists in the United States right now is not about the news. It's about the clicks. So it's really just going to always be about like, how do we get people to pay more attention to the clicks? And that's why when someone like AOC says to me like, oh, I know you're just doing this for clicks, it's incredibly offensive because I don't make any money off of commentary under a post from the BT newsroom, but two, because it suggests that being honest about what a politician's optics are is somehow disingenuous. When in actuality, the media does not do any of that. They're actually not honest about what politicians are doing because they are disingenuous in like a very real way. So miss me with that. And I want to just also point out that, hold on. I want to also just point out that the Supreme Court just gave Trump the ability to deport folks to other countries without due process. Why isn't this front page news? Why aren't we overwhelmed with this information? Why? Because it's not glossy. You know, they brought back Kilmar Abrego Garcia only to now figure out how to imprison him under false pretenses. So when we say the media, they're making choices on what they want to talk about. And to know that the Supreme Court ruled that, you know, Trump can basically do what he want to do. He's going to deport migrants to other countries than their own. That's not deportation. I need to say this again. That is not deportation. And it is literally human trafficking. And he can do it, quote unquote, swiftly. The court put on hold a federal judge's ruling that said that those affected nationwide should have a meaningful opportunity to bring claims, that they would be at risk of torture, persecution, or death if they were sent to countries the administration has made deals with to receive deported immigrants. So as a result, the administration will be able to try to quickly remove immigrants to such third countries, including South Sudan. I mean, this is really we are watching in a very real way the complete antithesis of what a world beyond borders should be. So Mahmoud Khalil, who has been in ICE custody for the past 3 to 4 months in Louisiana, they were trying to deport him, but they literally didn't even have anywhere to send him because he was already displaced. He was a displaced Palestinian. So they were like, we don't even know where to send him. They're not deporting people. They are imprisoning them in other countries. This is literally what happened during the Holocaust. I think people are so, I don't know what, I mean, not that anyone even really cares, but you know, during the Holocaust, like they didn't just have concentration camps in Germany. They had them in Poland. They had them in Austria. So that's what we're experiencing. That is what we're witnessing. And I think beyond just the horror that it's a prison for free labor, it's that we know that it's just a labor camp. Like we've seen this all over the place. Like even if you watch Stranger Things, the cop in the town was sent to a labor camp in Siberia. So we continue to allow this cycle to go. And I say we continue to allow because we are effectively disconnected from things. Like I'm watching people talk about things that happened 50 years ago as if they happened like 100 years ago. So, you know, even in the conversation around Iran, and I'm going to get to that, there's an ability to just go along with this simply because you don't know. And then some people will say, well, Amanda, what will we do about it? And what we can do about it is figure out how to not go along with it. We are watching people consistently not going along with ICE. They're doing something about it. We're watching people consistently doing something about it. I have an example of that in my How Black Do You Feel Today? And it's been incredible to see. And Miss Latia said, you know, as a people, we haven't risen up in a real way. We as a people, I believe, don't even know what that looks like. And that's by design. So I just want to bring that to people's attention. I definitely printed out the wrong sheet. I just want to bring that to people's attention. And we are about to see the next phase of the Big Beautiful Bill. Now, we've been talking about this Big Beautiful Bill, but in the distraction of it on, folks don't know that they may vote on the Big Beautiful Bill as early as tomorrow in the Senate. Will it make it through the Senate? We shall see. Some of the biggest aspects of the Big Beautiful Bill that give me big, beautiful pause are the effort to privatize public lands. 3.1 million acres of public lands being privatized. This is deeply disturbing. Your national parks. They're saying they're going to use it for housing. Why? What? Huh? There is provisions in this bill that are 100% going to affect Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. All for the effort of making it so that these billionaires don't have to pay taxes. And on a smaller level, we're seeing Democrats like James Clyburn from South Carolina and Bill Clinton and Al Sharpton in there going in support of Andrew Cuomo. We're seeing them support this type of behavior happening on a local level. And Leah Mabry, yes, what they are undoing is the New Deal. So the New Deal is essentially what was created by FDR during the 30s to try to get the United States out of the Great Depression. And it was a lot of programs and agencies that were put together to kind of like restore. So some of them were the Civilian Conservation Corps, the Agricultural Adjustment Act, the Tennessee Valley Authority, the Public Works Administration, the Federal Emergency Relief Administration, which became FEMA. But all of these programs were aimed at using the federal government as a resource for people to get grounded and be able to rebuild. And we are now at a time where we are seeing in a bipartisan effort, where we are seeing a bipartisan effort to allow this to be undone. So something else that's in this big, beautiful bill is no longer having federal judges in specific locations have the ability to challenge executive orders. This gives true power to Donald Trump, where we have seen federal judges be able to put a stay on certain things and force it to go to the Supreme Court. That would no longer be the case. So all of this is just, I'm just giving you like top lines. Yes, Laurel adds in hands off AI for 10 years. So they have a basically a stay of execution that says it's a mandate that says that there will be no regulations to AI for 10 years. And we've just seen the head of AI, the creator of AI, who's like trying to make his rounds like, hear me, listen to me, hear me. He's like, yo, this is going to create joblessness and ruin the world. So for the 1 billionth time, because you all keep asking, how can we fight back? So tomorrow I will be giving the assignment for while I'm gone. And I'm hoping, since you'll have a month to complete it, that we'll get a lot of responses. But for what it's worth, the assignment is, how can we fight back? That's the actual assignment. And I want you to find examples, historically and present, of how people have fought back globally. I'm tired of the question, how do we fight back? I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it. And also, let me point out, there are things that we're having to fight that no one's had to fight before. So you're going to have to be creative. There are things that we are fighting. I'm going to say this again. There are things that we're going to fight that have not been fought before. I really don't even want to hear anybody give an example of the civil rights movement. Please. I don't want to hear it. Y'all love to talk about a boycott. Ain't nobody and ain't nobody really boycotting. But y'all everybody loved to be like the Montgomery bus boycott. Everybody loved to reference the Montgomery bus boycott. Good Lord. Sheesh. No, we got folks down in Panama right now who are like, we're not working because Chiquita is on one and we're not working. You got the president of Panama making a state of emergency because that's where the bananas is coming from. And they like, no, Chiquita done people dirty in Guatemala and they're not going to do us dirty here in Panama. Nope. So your job for this assignment is to find new ways to fight back. And you can reference. So like, let's say you're like, okay, they did this in 1972. Here's what the 2025 version of it is. That is what your assignment is going to be. I will write it up and make it more official tomorrow, but that is what your assignment is going to be. How do you fight back in the context of 2025? Stop asking me and ask yourself. How do you fight back in the context of 2025? I mean, there are so many examples. You got mass protests. And what am I looking at? I'm looking at a list that I have on my board right here. A list of ways of resistance, of versions of resistance. You got mass protests. You got passive resistance. You got employee mutiny. You got using the oppressor's tools. You got truth yelling. Run this episode back so you can hear what I just said. Those are 5 different examples. I want to hear you try to figure out either using those or your own ways in which you are going to apply. Now, people say general strike. How are you going to do it? How are you going to make it happen? How are we going to get it down? I'm trying to get your brains to start thinking in this way. I'm trying to wake up brains. Like, I realize that, like, my position, my role is not to argue with idiots. My role is to empower warriors. That's my role. I want to teach y'all how to speak again. I know that. So I want y'all to understand that we're not here. Like, people love to be like, Amanda Seales don't give no solutions. Go fuck yourself. I love y'all. And I really believe, it was fascinating at the Surrounded show. I realized how much I've evolved, because even in all of the foolery, I still loved everybody there. Well, except for 2 of them. Like, my spirit and my soul was like, we got this. So, big, beautiful bill, it might pass. It might. I don't know if you know this, but it's going to get worse before it gets better. You know, there's only 634 of us here in this chat. There's only 634 of us here. And I be watching people with pages that have hundreds and hundreds of thousands of followers. And they're spewing the same basic rhetoric about Democrats. They're listing what Obama did for Black people. They're talking about what Black people need to do, and not giving any concept of coalition building. Hundreds of thousands of followers. They're telling the news. Hundreds of thousands of followers. I got like 170,000 followers, something like that. I'm just saying. You know, people are still watching The Breakfast Club and they're still over there talking the same rhetoric. You know, there is no massive shift. There should have been by now a massive shift. There's still an effort to try to comply. It's weird. And there is nothing that any of those spaces are going to give you that is going to be helpful if it is done in moderation. You cannot beat extremism with moderation. It's not possible. Shade Room has millions of followers. Millions of followers. I just say all of this to say that we could sit up here every day and talk and feel good about ourselves because we know better, but we are very much in the minority. So when we talk about something like a general strike, your next question should be, how do I get people to even understand what that is? How? On top of that, you got organizers that are really just narcissists that just want to get, you know, celebrity type energy. I've seen a lot of that. That was wild to see, but I've seen a lot of that. So they're going to vote on this bill. It might happen on Wednesday, and then it's going to go to the House. And if it passes, then we'll see what happens. We'll see if that's going to wake people up. Andrietta, people don't listen to celebrities. There's nothing to, what are celebrities saying to listen to? They're not saying nothing. Not a single person that was on Insecure with me has said anything about anything. Not one. I have not seen any of my co-stars on Insecure say anything about anything. If they have, then I stand corrected. Please correct me. I'm just saying that I haven't seen it. I haven't heard it. So this concept of celebrity is also its own, like, BS. Oh, you're right. Well, Kendrick was that before he was on Insecure. Yeah, Kendrick Sampson, Kendrick been that. Like that, Kendrick was always that before he got on the show. So, and shout out to Kendrick. We love Kendrick. Kendrick don't never wear no clothes. Kendrick don't never wear no clothes. He don't like no clothes. He's like, please, can I have a tank top? So, we, mon chéri. Oh, no, Kendrick doesn't get any disrespect about it. None. Because he speaks, softly, and he's of the Jesse Williams tribe of light skin, light eyes. He's a lot more loving with the corrections in a way that makes people feel safe. And I show up in a different way. I'm giving you all a longer show because yesterday was a short show. I want to remind you that while all of this is happening, we must continue to keep our eyes on Palestine. They have killed up to 500 people since the opening of these food aid sites. They are snipering individuals who are going to get aid. They are carrying out the final solution while everyone's heads are turned towards Iran. I saw a baby with its leg lying next to it. I'll never unsee that. I'll never unsee that. I'm glad I saw it. The food aid sites are death camps, correct, Zebs? And a Harvard study says that 377,000 Palestinians are missing since October 7th. Because what they've done now is they've been able to quantify, okay, we've got all of these reports of those who have been identified among the dead. However, we can't account for these people. And when you add it all up, it ends up being over 500,000 people who have either been deceased or missing in Palestine, in Gaza. Yeah. So I just want to remind you to keep Palestine in your hearts and minds, and to understand that the effort to dissuade you or distract you is not by accident. I am very happy to see that there is becoming a lot more effort. There's just been a lot more vocal disparaging of the Israeli government. I was disgusted to see Stephen Colbert bring Brad Lander and Zohran Mamdani onto his show as candidates for New York City mayor and then ask them about Israel. I don't. Oh. Why is the it's really, is it, could it be any less obvious? I just was like, wow, really, Colbert? Like you really fell for, wow. Wow. Oh. So that was disappointing. So the last thing I want to talk about is let's have a critical thinking exercise about Iran. AmandaLand. Let's get it. Check this out.
To understand is
they were going to throw flowers at us in Iraq. That never happened.
Yeah, well, and I'm not saying they're going to throw flowers at us here, but this is a lot different situation. And it's you know, I work with a lot of amazing Persian people. I'm really excited to invest in Iran if we can get this country to be some sort of republic, not run by crazy people. And that's a lot easier than doing that in Afghanistan or somewhere else.
Well, so how much do you think this is about? We were talking to the Minister of the Economy in Israel. Is it about regime change, like full-on regime change in Iran, versus just eliminating the nuclear threat?
Well, it's very clear that this administration says it's about eliminating the nuclear threat. That's their goal. I respect that. You know, when we attacked Iraq 20 years ago, even then I thought it was a mistake versus going after Iran. Iran's clearly a really evil regime. So I've been against the Iranian regime. I've been for freeing Iran for a long time. That is not what this administration says they're doing, and I respect that. I think it is critical we get rid of the nukes.
So this white man who's an exec at Palantir, who now has just been, I think he's one of the executives that has been given military status, is suggesting that there be a coup. Because that's, yes, Laurel Henderson, keep them together. That's what regime change means. It's a coup. If you're watching us on Instagram, please join us at Amanda Seals TV. Please join us at Amanda Seals TV on YouTube. So when we talk about regime change, particularly as it relates to Iran, we have to get into how we got here. How did we get here? Iran was originally, in the 50s, being run by a Shah, a monarchy. And in 1941, the Shah got ran out of the country, and his son, Mohammed Shah, was put in power. They also had a democratically elected position of the prime minister. So similar to how you see England run, where they have a monarchy as well as elected officials, that was how Iran was set up. So then you had Mohammad Mossadegh. I don't know if I'm pronouncing his last name properly, but I'm trying. And Mohammad Mossadegh came into power, and in Iran, he said, we about to kick out all these colonialists, and we're about to run our own show. Very similar to what we see Ibrahim Traoré doing in Burkina Faso, what we see the leader of Niger doing, what we see a lot of these places in the Sahel doing. So Mohammad Mossadegh said, we're going to get control of our own oil reserves, because up until that point, Britain was involved. And when he did this, it was a big deal for Iran. However, the US and the British got together and came to the Shah and said, hey, check this out. We think you should actually just be in power. Like, why have a republic when it could just be you popping off? You know what I'm saying? Don't that sound cool? You just running the show like by yourself. And of course, because whenever you appeal to men's egos, it seems more often than not that they're like, yeah. So they said, okay, so we'll help make that happen as long as you give us your oil. And so that's what they did. They led a coup to take Mohammad Mossadegh out of power and restore central power to the Shah, a monarchy. And so the monarchy ruled till I think 1978 or 79. And in this time, Iranians were standing up to the Shah because it was like, no, we want a democracy. We want to be able to vote for who is in power. And in this time, the Shah was doing things, right? Like he was modernizing the country, etc. But people want to be able to be their own masters. I know there are some people that don't. Those are the people who continuously say to me, but what do we do? But a lot of people want to be able to be the voice of their own destiny. And so they started to protest. And in starting to protest, the Shah became more and more violent. They started shooting at protesters. He got his own secret police. They started arresting people. They started creating checkpoints to stoke fear into people. They started executing people, all to try to conserve power. And then the United States also assisted in the overthrowing of the Shah which ended up supplanting the Islamic Brotherhood, which is an extremist theocracy grounded in Shia Islam. Which is a sect of Islam that is less common as Sunni. Now, this is something that the United States consistently does. They and the colonizer, they will take a smaller group and say, we will give you this if you will give us this. So we saw that with Belgium and the Hutus and the Tutsis. We saw that with Pakistan and India, with the Muslims and the Hindus. We saw that right here with the Shia and the Sunni Muslims. And we're seeing it here in the United States with immigrants and Black Americans. So the Ayatollah comes into power and implants a theocracy with extreme rules around how life should be lived based on his interpretation of the Quran. And the irony of this is that even though the United States assisted in this happening, they continue to present it as they're so evil, etc. And for what it's worth, everything that happened in Iran is similar to what's happening here in the United States. They are trying to supplant a Christian theocracy here in the United States. Yes, they are trying to completely disenfranchise women here in the United States. And they are actively trying to put in power a dictator to run the show. So to suggest, oh, that this is so evil and we have to undo it is we all know that that's disingenuous. And it's coming from a CEO of a company that is actively involved in undermining elections and economies the world over. Yes, we all have one common enemy, and that is imperialism. This is the same imperialism that you learned about in school with the British, except it's being done in a different version with tech. So I wanted to give us that background because I think so many people don't understand that whatever we're seeing is really shrouded in a lot of dark matter because we don't really know the truth. I mean, the fact that Donald Trump is sending out tweets is like really bizarre, right? Like, what kind of tweet is this? Israel, do not drop those bombs. If you do it, bring your pilots home. It's a major violation. Like, this is like watching Cardi B and Offset fight on Twitter. Except it's two nations. Ugh. So I don't even know while we're sitting here if anything has happened about Iran, but I wanted to give you all some backstory so that at the very, very, very least, oh, wow, it's not even on Twitter. It's on Truth Social. Oh, wow. So sometimes I feel like that's just literally them saying, we just going to let the old man do what he do and we're going to do what we do. Because you know he's not making any of these decisions. I feel like I have to tell my mother this constantly. All of these presidents, I would say probably like Bill Clinton was probably a present voice in making decisions, but like George Bush, that was Dick Cheney. Like Barack Obama, he was there. I don't know if he's making any decisions. Every time I see Kamala speak, she sounds like she's just reciting lines. I don't think she has like any like point of view that she's going to interject. Every time I see Kamala do interviews, I know I'm an actor. I know what recited lines look like. I did see him talk to the reporter, Fatima, and he was literally just like, yeah, you know, I don't like Iran, but Israel, I don't know what they doing either. I mean, I don't know. But the gag is that, Nikki, it's not coming from him. It's not coming from Donald Trump. And I think that's the thing that none of us are, not none of us, but a lot of us continue to, he is a tool. That's one sentence. But let me also add on, of a greater effort. That's why when we see an executive at Palantir, why is an executive from Palantir even being given a platform to talk about United States foreign policy? The same question I ask about why is Stephen A. Smith being given a platform to talk about politics? Why was Charlemagne ever given a platform to talk about politics? Why were these people presented as experts about this topic in any shape, way, or form? Why? They've never studied in these fields. They're not interacting with other folks who are actual experts in these fields. They're just used. And so the same thing happens at even the highest levels. But when you see an executive from a firm that just got a government contract to create asset files for Americans, USians, it lets you know who's really running the show. I don't like when we say things like never, Miss Latia. These two countries will never trust each other. Based on what? Like, we have to stop speaking in never when we're literally referencing like 60 years of history. If you want to talk about never and reference China and Japan, you may have more of a leg to stand on, but guess what? Both China, Japan, and Korea have said we're not going to the NATO conference. Y'all can have it. Y'all can have it. All of Asia is like, let's just put our differences aside to really be side-eyed about these gringos. That means a lot. All of those countries have been deeply affected by American imperialism. Even Japan, who we know are imperialists. And they can be a model for how we, as folks in the U.S., immigrants and citizens alike, can operate. Jax, are you even listening? This is why I get annoyed with y'all. This is why, as a professor, y'all better pay attention because I will call you out in my class. This is why I get annoyed with y'all. Who do y'all think running things then? I just said, when they're platforming an executive of a company that just got a government contract to talk about geopolitical politics, that lets you know who is running things. Why is the executive of a company that has a government contract even being given a platform to have a different opinion? To have a different opinion than the policy that has been outwardly spoken by the nation. Do you know how wild that is? He's like, yeah, I respect that. That's what they're saying. But really, I believe there should be regime change. Regime change is a coup. Billionaires, corporations are who are running the show. That's who's running the show, love. And that is why when we talk about solutions and we talk about what are the real problems, we have to be able to identify who the real issue creators are. So we could sit here and talk about Democrats and Republicans all day long, but they are literally just representatives of corporations. And this is what I was saying during the election. During the election, what I was saying was, you know, y'all could sit here and talk about Kamala and Trump all day, but the real question is, who are the lobbyists? Who are the donors that are driving their campaigns? How do you get to them? Fam, let people learn. Who the fuck are you talking to? Sometimes y'all get very comfortable in this chat and I don't know who you're talking to. Fam, let people learn. Too comfortable. That's your warning. People learn when they shut up and listen. That's far too much what happens here, is that people talk and talk and talk and are not listening. Bam, let people learn. Be clear on who you're talking to then, because that kind of generic speech is not clear. So, I really want to what's the word I'm looking for? I really want to point out, by the way, that I saw somebody, was it yesterday that somebody was like, well, Kamala wouldn't have done this because she said that she was willing to have a conversation about the nuclear weapons. Again, if the United States is in partnership with a country like Israel, the question becomes for a lot of people, like, what is the real relationship with that? And by the way, I just saw people saying that by saying that Israel is controlling the United States, that you're being anti-Semitic. And let me just let y'all know, okay, how do I say this? I don't want to hear about people being anti-Semitic no more. I really don't. I don't want to hear it. Let me tell you something. And I mean this. If you Jewish right now, the loudest way you should be existing is as an anti-Zionist. That, in my opinion, is the loudest way you should be existing. Not, well, if you do this, stop it. Stop it. Well, no, when you say that Jewish people are running an industry, that's anti-Semitic. No, it's not. They are. Whether or not they are Zionists is another conversation. But yes, the largest group of people that I see in power positions in certain industries ends up being people who are claiming to be a member of the Jewish faith. And the idea that it is anti-Semitic by naming that is a carryover of Hasbara that says that by naming Jewish people as in power is actually putting a target on their back. And yes, that is what Hitler was doing. There's a difference, however, in saying you are in power and thus you will be held accountable for how you wield that power. And there's a difference between saying that and saying, and thus you must die. I'm not saying that by any means. But whoever is in power, regardless of their faith, whoever is in control, whoever has a large swath of ownership anywhere, in any way, should be held accountable. Period. And just because a bad guy made that a scapegoat doesn't change the reality of it. Stop. And it's just disingenuous. Because the same effort is not being made around the same effort is not being made around dismantling Islamophobia. These folks sat up there with Stephen Colbert, Brad Lander, and Zohran Mamdani, who is Muslim. And this man sat there and asked them about Israel and how are they going to fight anti-Semitism. You know how many Muslims live in New York City? He didn't ask them one question about Islamophobia. The genocide is happening to a largely Muslim population. It's not happening to the Jewish population of Israel. So what are we talking about? Oh, I know what we're talking about. We're talking about talking points that have been sent down by those who are in control. 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 So, like, if you don't want it to be that, then don't act like that. Because that's what that is. Clearly demonstrated. Now I'm all grown up. So, God, I miss my pool right now. So the U.S. has meddled in so many elections. The U.S. has overthrown so many countries. The U.S. has dismantled, disturbed, destabilized so many efforts at the people of nations that have nothing to do with the U.S. Know where we are, know where we're from. We are in a country, we are of a country whose history exists as tyranny to this planet. And I don't want to be a part of that. Yes, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi. That was the Shah. That was the Shah of Iran. Mohammad Reza Pahlavi. And now his son is like trying to be like, I'll come back. Put me back in, coach. Put me back in, coach. I'm still the Shah. Put me back in. Chill out. The people didn't want you. They didn't want y'all people then. They don't want you now. So, I want to show you how black I feel today. Y'all ready for that? How black do you feel today?
You ready to go? They coming. They coming. Hey, you better go. Y'all better go ahead. Hey, sorry. Motherfuckers. Look. He looking in the fucking van. That white dude. That fucking van. Yeah. Which way do I go? Hey, yeah. Turn around. You're gonna have to turn around. Fuck. Oh, fuck. Let me see. Back through? Yeah. Go. Pero si no. Ready. Bueno. Shit. Derecho? No, para acá. Okay. Perdón, no sabe. Allá. Ando. Yes, and the big mom. I'll be in the van with the river guys. Yeah, let's get the fuck in. Yes. Good. Wait, no way! Wait, no! I can't see the light. I can't see. Dale. Hey, you have to go real quick because yeah. If they close it, yeah. If they close the road. They fuck you everybody. Slow. A little bit. There's too much weight in here for both guys. Yeah, it's too much weight. We're gonna fucking flip over. Derecho? Sí, derecho. Diéndele a la verga. Yeah, fuck that light. Yeah, fuck that light. Go. Fuck this. Fuck them. Fuck them. I got my viejos. My viejos. All right, my viejos aquí is no problem. Walk them motherfuckers.
What you just watched is a brother who works with all of them folks, literally telling them ICE is coming, putting them in the van, and getting away. That's what you just watched. He helped them escape. And I feel like there's something important that's shown in this, which is also just the joy of when they've realized they made it out. But the reality of our existence at this point. That wasn't like some movie. That was a real life escape. And then people were at work. They weren't on the block. They were at work building a building. You choose how you want to exist. You feel me? You choose how you want to exist. You choose how you want to live in the world. You choose your soul's path. I remember my next door neighbor when she was 8 years old. She turned to me and her mom and she said, you know, we're in hell, right? We were like, what you mean? And she said, yeah, this is hell. There's somewhere else that we go after this. And she was in the middle of eating her lobster and mashed potatoes. She said, there's somewhere else we go after this, which is why I don't understand why people act like this is the end. Out the mouth of babes. And then she went back to her food. So we have a troll in here who said, if they're illegals, get them out of here. And I'm going to point out that the concept of people being illegal is ultimately unjust because humans cannot be illegal for existing, but also because it was ultimately illegal for their countries to have been destabilized by the United States, which is what ends up sending people here. So there is no international law at this point, if you haven't noticed. International law was put in place to help, white imperialists keep black and brown people away. And, I got the power. If that's how you feel, you just been indoctrinated. That's all. You can't go to another country without permission. What does that have to do with being here? Do you know what this country does to other countries? What? The other part of it that is always fascinating to me is the complete disconnect from the reality that immigrants bring so much infrastructure to this nation on like multiple levels, not just in their skills, but also in the ways in which they bring money to this country. So it is beyond my scope of comprehension to hear anybody who considers themselves American talk about, I don't want illegals, get them out of here, when the people who are enacting this are illegal. The way that they're even doing this is illegal. So where's your common sense coming from? I'm not going to even ask about your compassion because it's clearly non-existent. But the concept of illegality in itself is nonsensical. Things just get made illegal. At one point, coming here and just showing up was not illegal. You could just come here and show up and they was going to give you land if you were white. So, I mean, the United States does so much to destroy the earth that you now have folks in other countries who aren't doing any of that can't live in their countries because there's so much climate change that it's literally making it impossible to live. Water is rising. The heat is too much. The wildlife have gone. Here we go. So, miss me with that. And listen, soil depleted. Great one, Jade Boyd. Yep, soil depleted. Nonetheless, we continue to fight. So shout out to those brothers in that video and who were, just modeling what it is to be in community. He worked with them people every day. Now, you got folks who are like, well, I don't like so-and-so. I don't like Mexicans because I worked with these particular Mexicans and they were shady. Fair. You don't like those particular Mexicans. But that means that those Mexicans that you worked with, you're willing to work with white supremacy to harm anybody who fits a description created by white supremacy. Like, that's the part for me that I don't think people are understanding. You don't want to call black people a monolith, but you're literally doing that with Latinos, and they are not even from the same group. They're not even from the same country. The name Latino is white supremacist. And you're willing to say, I want to see all of them gone based on white supremacist rhetoric. Ciao. If that's what you align yourself with, just understand that you are absolutely trading in your black card by doing that. Any alignment with white supremacist rhetoric is counter to your elevation and protection as a black person. And that's how I feel about that. AmandaLand. PSA. So I've been on Instagram since 2008. And when I first got on Instagram, there were a lot of accounts that I followed. And over the years, I really came to follow a lot of conservation and animal conservation accounts. And one of them was called Save a Fox. Save a Fox Rescue was run by a young autistic woman named Michaela, who I just learned took her own life after being so overwhelmed by the bullying online. This was a woman who was deeply committed to her work. I learned so much about foxes, about the conservation work in the United States, about different animals. And she was always so beautifully dedicated to her work. And people bullied her. And I don't even understand what they were bullying her about. But for those who do not believe that online bullying is a real thing, for those who tell people like me, just ignore it, just don't look at the comments, etc., you don't understand what it is if you say that. It's not easy to simply just ignore. It's not practical for some of us to simply just turn off the comments. We end up needing to see the comments to even know sometimes where the next content has to go, the trajectory, if we're hitting the nail, etc. This was somebody that much of her Save a Fox rescue was being funded by her work on the internet, on YouTube and on Instagram. And these folks who are just hollow souls find people like this who, I don't know her politics, but her work with the animals was pure. And they find people like this and they latch on to try to cut them down. I am one of those people. I have experienced it. And so I just want to send love to all the people at Save a Fox Rescue, to her husband, to her own personal animals, because this is completely avoidable. And I remember when I was being smear campaigned by Black pages like The Griot and Essence and Black Enterprise and Shade Room, etc. And somebody I know that worked at one of these places, that worked at the Griot, told me that they brought to their attention, this is the kind of thing that has somebody take their own life. And their retort was, oh, stop being dramatic. She deserved better. Her animals deserve better. The animal conservation community deserve better. And all of you all who be on this web just trying to do that which you can't do yourself, I hope you will heal and stop projecting your pain on others. And the rest of you who see it happening and don't say anything, you are bystanders. You are enablers. I know this as somebody who has seen all of the hatred for me, and then people be like, oh, we love you, but you don't say nothing to those people when they talking crazy to me. And then you tell me that what I need to do is stop paying attention to those people, stop platforming the negativity, stop blah, 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 stop telling us what to do. And instead ask yourself, what can I do to protect these people who are putting themselves out there in a way that enriches me? It's actually the least you could do. You can donate to Save a Fox Rescue. They have a GoFundMe. Her husband has said he's going to continue her work. I never met her, but from what I witnessed, she loved them animals. And these people made her hate living. And some of you might say, you can't make somebody listen. Then you ain't never been bullied before. Because at a certain point, you say to yourself, you know what? I think death would be easier.
PSA.
No, you can't watch her video. Go to her page and watch the video. When I saw that last night, that just made me so upset. It made me so upset. So I want to thank everybody who has given us supers today, who allows for this show to keep going. Tomorrow, I'll officially give you your assignment for while I'm out. And I want to remind you that when we come back in August, we'll be doing the show officially on Wednesdays at 10 a.m. Eastern, but we'll have Monday evening sessions. I'm working on trying to just reconstruct a whole world of things for us. So I just need some time to do it. And I appreciate y'all giving me that time to do it and respecting that I need the time. You feel me? So we've had a long show as promised. I told you I was going to do it. Shout out to Christina Brown for coming through and really speaking into us and leveling us up. It's only Tuesday. Tomorrow, we got, who we got on the show tomorrow? Let's see. We got Dulce Sloan on the show tomorrow, and we got Megan Toy. So we have a fabulous show tomorrow. Fabulous. So looking forward to that, and I hope to see you all here. And, let's take these 30 seconds of stillness for Michaela. She deserves it. And the work that she did was thankless. And she deserved better.
30 seconds of stillness.
I enjoyed laughing and learning with you. Please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And tell your friends. Also, listen to the podcast. It's available everywhere pods are casted. Listen ad-free by subscribing to Patreon Amanda Seals. Come on and join the Seals Squad. Views from AmandaLand. Live 10 a.m. Eastern Monday through Wednesday with content on Thursday and Friday at YouTube Amanda Seals TV.